Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So, today we're going to be discussing the season finale of Loki, episode 6. So, of course, spoiler warnings before we get into it. That being said, also, one more thing before we begin, I reviewed the Black Widow movie yesterday, so feel free to check that out. I should link it in the card up above somewhere. Um, yeah, let's dive straight into Loki. So, first things first, the Marvel logo. The episode starts off with the usual Marvel logo. It turns green for Loki, but something to notice this time around is the logo doesn't only turn green, it is somewhat different because we don't hear the normal Marvel music. We hear speaking in the background, and it's lines from past movies that characters said. And the intro continues past the logo now, and then we get a picture of the sun and the universe, and we start zooming out. So we see the stars, space, galaxies, planets, all of that on top of each other as we zoom out, and then it zooms out into a kind of effect that is like a tunnel. It reminds you a lot of Doctor Strange one when the Ancient One flicked him on the forehead, and his spirit or soul started going through the multiverse, kinda. So we get that effect, and it goes straight through into this line or the linear timeline that we've been hearing about for all the episodes of Loki. And we see the line going straight past the broken, destroyed comet or asteroid, where the citadel is. So it's kind of like a planet, kinda. But yeah, we then get the official opening now, and we see Loki and Sylvie standing and looking into the vast expanse being space, the linear timeline, and the castle. And they proceed to walk up to it, and there's this door. Um, and it has like golden streaks on it. But when they get to the door, we see them discussing. Sylvie wants to kick in the door, and she's like, "You're not gonna stop me." And Loki and her have a little back and forth, and basically she's trying to compose herself. She tells him she wants a minute because she's been after this for so long and finally got it. However, while they're discussing this, we get the door opening, kind of like one of those horror movies. The door just opens. um, and they walk in, and it's big, empty, and it's a giant hallway. And while walking through this big, empty hallway, we see two statues on either side of the doorway. So they continue walking, and they run into Miss Minutes now, and this is where it gets interesting because Miss Minutes starts talking to them and telling them congratulations, they made it. Um, what do they want? She could make Loki ruler, she could make him king, she could make him kill Thanos, she could give him the Infinity Gauntlet, trying to bargain with him then. And Sylvie. We then cut away now from that to see Ravonna packing up, planning her escape. Um, and we see Miss Minutes appear there, and this leads to an interesting conversation with her because Miss Minutes was downloading files for Ravonna that she asked for, but Ravonna sees that it's not the files she asked for, and Miss Minutes says that these files are what he thinks is good enough for you or that you'll need. And Ravonna is like, "Who is it?" And she Miss Minutes just ghosts her and vanishes. So I'll talk more about this aspect of Ravonna later on. But we then cut back now to Loki and Sylvie, and we see them walking through the hallway again. And it's the shot from the trailer where the camera was slowly spinning. Um, and they go into the next big abandoned spooky room. And this one has four statues, however. We see one of the statues are destroyed because we see pieces on the ground. And, and then they hear a noise. So they prepare to fight. And the elevator comes up and then it opens. Yeah, I need to stop with the sound effects. But yeah, the elevator door opens and we see someone sitting there. And it is, as Miss Minutes called him earlier, he who remains. That is the name we're going by for now. I'll use the proper name later on. But he who remains. And he invites them to his office. So they get in the elevator after some back and forth. And Sylvie in the elevator is like she expected more, seeing that he's just a human, it should be easier to kill him. So she tries to kill him. But this leads to him jumping, kind of like how in episode 1 when Loki had the color on and he tried to run there with rewind time, kind of, and you'll see him kind of teleport back. So he's using an ability like that to avoid her slashes. They then get to the top of the elevator, but we cut away from that and we get back to Ravonna. And we see now that Mobius is here, and Mobius comes in, and basically he comes in to tell her about, I'm back, you didn't kill me, things like that. And Ravonna tries to call for backup. But when she does, we then cut again. A lot of cutting in this episode. We cut away to Ohio in 19 something, I believe. And we see B-15. And some of the guards try to chase her, but while chasing her, B-15 runs into an office and the guard kind of begins talking to her. And while they're speaking, um, a variant of Ravonna comes out. And when it comes out, they see what's going on. And this leads to the TVA finding out that they're all variants, basically. We then cut away again, and we see He Who Remains, Loki, and Sylvie in his office now. He gave them tea and they're sitting and talking. And basically, he tells them that I was able to avoid your attacks before in the elevator and whatnot because I know what is going to happen. And he pulls out a script, kind of like what Loki had in episode 1 with all the words he said all his life. And he shows them it, and Loki and Sylvie read it, and they're like, this is a farce, this is a joke, it can't be real. So more disbelief from them. We then cut back to Mobius and Ravonna, more cutting away again, and Mobius is going to prune her, and she stops him again, and she takes the weapon from him, and she throws him to the floor. However, she doesn't prune him. She instead takes up her stuff, closes the stick, and opens a portal and steps through it. And while she's leaving, Mobius asks her where she's going, and she says she's going to find freedom. So again, more on her in a bit. We then cut back to Loki, Sylvie, and He Who Remains, and this is where we get more accurate name for him. And I say that because it would tie into the comic book name. So he tells Loki and Sylvie he's been called many names over the years. One is ruler, one is jerk, one is this, one is that, one is conqueror. And this is officially where we get Kang the Conqueror. So yes, Jonathan here, that's the actor's name. He's playing Kang the Conqueror. It was also confirmed for Ant-Man. But we'll talk about that later. So we get his confirmation. And now this is where we start getting into some Easter eggs kinda. So essentially he starts telling the story of the multiverse. So there was one Kang basically, and Kang basically figured out there's multiverses, and he started experimenting, and this is where he met other versions of himself and they started helping each other. So this is a callback to our next comic moment. But before we go into that comic moment, let's discuss Kang. So who is Kang? For those who don't know, Kang is a descendant of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. And Kang is from the 31st century. He's a time traveler. He doesn't have powers, but his suit that he uses gives him super strength and all his abilities. So that is who Kang is. He's a space and time traveler, I guess, because he goes through space as well. So yeah, he's a time traveler and he's from the future. Alright, now back to the Kang multiverse part now, where he's telling us the story, and he says that one Kang found the multiverse and then they started to help each other to better each other's worlds. This is a reference to Reed Richards, of course, from the Fantastic Four, and his Council of Reeds. And Council of Reeds is what it says, just like what Kang said. A bunch of Reeds together helping each with their own problems from different multiverses or different universes in the multiverse. He then continues his story and we get a next Easter egg, because he says at the end of it, sooner or later, all the Kangs ended up into this big multiversal battle. And one remained, so it's basically a battle to see who's the strongest. And this is a reference to Secret Wars. And in the comic, Secret Wars was the same thing, a big multiversal battle. Different multiverse characters from the MCU came together, and the early time was battling for survival. We then see that he says that he found Elias throughout all this after he won the battle. Elias was created, and he tamed Elias' power to help subjugate these branch timelines and all of that. And That is the story of Elias. We also get him now saying that at the end of all of this, um, long explanation, he says, also I fibbed a bit at the beginning, and fibbed how you may say, because he says, well, I knew everything up to that point about 10 seconds ago, now I don't know what happens next. Then we see behind them the multiverse starts to branch out, and while branching out, he says, you have two options. More than likely, you can join me and help me keep things in check and keep the multiverse linear, or you could kill me, and then that would throw the multiverse into haywire, and that means more Kangs, and they may be worse than me. So, yeah, now about that. In the comics, now we're going to talk about the Ravonna part. In the comics, Ravonna showed up to stop Kang later on. So I'm guessing her role will be the same now, seeing as she went off on her own. So I'm guessing she's going to read the files and figure out she was wrong and come to help later on. Also, this version of Kang is mostly good compared to the normal Kang. So I'm guessing the bad Kang would be from the main multiverse. But I digress. We then cut to now Sylvie saying, you know what? I'm gonna kill you. So she tries to kill him, but Loki uses his telekinesis to stop her. And this leads to them having a bit of a showdown and Loki trying to talk her out of it. Um, the talking doesn't work. She tries to attack him. We see he can summon the sword now that Kid Loki gave him. We also get her getting the upper hand again, whooping our Loki. And then when she goes in for the final strike, Loki appears in front of the blade and she stops. And they begin to have a moment, and Loki says, you can't trust me because you are not trusted, and you and I am known for not being trusted, basically. So they don't mix well, oil and water kind of scenario. But they have a heart to heart, and they smoochy make the fandom happy. Um, However, while doing that, when she's done, she says, I'm not like you, meaning she is a separate Loki. She's her own entity. She has her own needs. And a portal opens up behind Loki and she blasts him through it. And he ends up back at the TVA. And then Sylvie goes in for the kill. And she proceeds to kill Kang. However, when she stabs him, he says, I'll see you soon, and he winks at her like, so yeah, and dies. When he dies, we see what he was speaking about earlier, where basically the timeline goes into haywire. We see it splitting behind them. And it splits into a huge array of things in the sky. So it's bright blue and purple neon, millions of multiverses created. And we see back at the TV, they're watching the monitor that they usually monitor the timeline on, creating a set of branches. We then see Loki sitting and sulking a bit because he lost his true love. Sad. But this is where it gets interesting because Loki picks himself up and he runs through the TVA to meet Mobius and B15. And he sees them talking, but when he goes up to them and starts explaining the situation, they're like, what are you talking about? Who are you? Are you new? And this leads to the ending. So it seems the TVA changed back to its origin. I don't know. It seems the multiverse affected everyone's memory somehow. I don't know. But the last shot of the episode is we see a right in the library where they had the three statues with the timekeepers. We see a zoom out and we see in the background while it's zooming out and then zooming back in, I guess. The three statues are gone and there's one statue left with Kang himself, more comic book accurate costume as well, and it zooms in on that and it ends there. And then we get the credits and the credits roll, and when the credits ends, we see Loki will return in season 2. That's the end credit scene. So essentially, now we'll talk about some future things. We know the multiverse of madness is happening. This sets up Kang, so I'm guessing Kang is going to show up in that movie as well, probably as a cameo at the end or something. I'm also going to assume Loki will show up in that movie too. I think it was confirmed earlier on today that he may. Don't hold me to that. But yeah, so we get Loki and Kang in that movie, I'm sure. And I'm going to at least assume he survives because he's the main villain for Ant-Man Quantumania as it was announced earlier this year. So I'm guessing Doctor Strange may cross over with that as well. And this is where Ravonna would come in, I guess, because she would come in to help there to stop Kang. And that would be nice because the good this Kang that we got in this episode was more good. He seemed more like the Tempest character from the comics, and not Kang the Conqueror esque killer evil Kang. And I'm guessing the timeline after they killed this good Kang, the bad Kang will somehow come from the main timeline's future, maybe. So we need to look out for that. But yeah, all in all, a very good episode. Inside Secret War, inside all the Council of Reeds, little mini Easter eggs sprinkled throughout the episode, and I love that. So yeah, all in all, if you enjoyed anything I had to say, please feel free hit that subscribe button. If you're new, hit like, and of course, I reviewed this entire series. I reviewed the entirety of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision with Easter eggs and all that. If you want to see any of those, check out the channel. I reviewed Black Widow and pointed out the Easter eggs and that too. Feel free to check that out on the channel as well. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.